Hey there, travelers. Pull up a log, grab a seat, and welcome to the warmth of the fire. I am absolutely thrilled to have you here for this explainer. Today, we're going to channel our inner ancient skald, the traditional epic storytellers of the North, to unravel one of the most fascinating and honestly misunderstood mythologies in human history. We're looking at the ancient North cosmos. It's a universe born of absolute extremes, and we'll be diving deep into the incredibly paradoxical figure who kept the whole thing spinning, Loki, the god of mischief. Okay, let's dive into this. Now, just for a second, I want you to step away from the comforting heat of our campfire here. Close your eyes and imagine a time before time even existed. Imagine a vast, freezing, unfathomable emptiness. So how did our vibrant living world begin from the frozen, silent mists of absolute nothingness? Well, in Norse mythology, the universe doesn't start with some gentle spark of divine light. Oh no, it starts with a violent, massive collision of raw elemental forces in a great primordial void called Ginnungagap. Chapter 1, Forging the Norse Cosmos, the Birth of the Nine Realms. Now, what's really interesting about this timeline is that creation in Norse myth fundamentally requires destruction. First, in that great void, the freezing, endless ice of Niflheim crashed into the scorching, roaring fire of Muspelheim. The melting ice birthed the very first being, a colossal primal giant named Ymir. But to actually create the ordered world we know today, the newly born gods, Odin, Vili, and Ve, had to violently slay Ymir. They literally forged the universe from his remains. His blood became the vast churning oceans, his flesh became the dry land of Midgard, and his enormous bones were piled high to forge the mountain ranges. To the ancient Norse, the very earth beneath our feet is a massive, repurposed giant. Incredible, right? So from this violent creation, the nine realms were established, creating this cosmic ecosystem governed by deep elemental dualities. On one hand, you have Asgard, the shining, fortified home of the Aesir gods, representing strict order, law, and divine civilization. And on the other side, you have Jotunheim, the harsh, frozen, terrifying land of the giants, representing sheer chaos, untamed primal nature, and the destructive forces that predated the gods themselves. The Aesir were completely terrified of the chaos bleeding over from Jotunheim, and their desperate, driving need to keep that chaos out sets the stage for our next chapter. Part 2. Building the Mighty Wall. A deal with the devil. To permanently protect their perfectly ordered realm of Asgard from those chaotic giants, the gods decided they needed an impenetrable fortification, a giant wall. But building it would require a mysterious master builder who suddenly arrived in Asgard with a totally outrageous wager. He offered to build this massive wall, but his price was unthinkable. If he finished it in time, he demanded the sun, the moon, and the beautiful goddess Freya as his wife. The gods were, understandably, deeply hesitant to accept, but Loki, utilizing his legendary silver tongue, convinced the Aesir that these terms were an impossible trap for the builder. He told them, look, if we limit him to just one single winter and forbid him from using any human help, he'll definitely fail, and we'll get a partially built wall for absolutely free. The gods agreed, genuinely thinking they had outsmarted this guy. But the builder had a secret weapon, Svadilfari. See, while the gods forbade the help of other men, they had carelessly allowed the builder to use his horse. And Svadilfari was no ordinary farm animal. This was a supernatural, tireless, absolute unit of a stallion that could haul literal mountains of stone through the dead of the winter night. He was doing the work of an entire army. Before long, winter was almost over, and that impenetrable wall was mere days away from completion. The gods were in an absolute, total panic. The sun, the moon, and Freya were suddenly in terrible, terrible jeopardy. Section 3. Loki's Desperate Trick. Fixing a Cosmic Disaster. The Aesir quickly cornered Loki. They were terrified of losing Freya and plunging the entire cosmos into permanent darkness. And because Loki was the one who practically pushed them to take the wager, they placed all the blame squarely on his shoulders. They issued a brutal ultimatum. Find a way to stop the builder from finishing that wall right now, or suffer a slow, incredibly painful death. So the crucial point here is that Loki was literally forced to completely fix the very cosmic disaster he had so confidently engineered. To save his own skin, Loki had to utilize one of his most extraordinary powers, Hamramar.
Now, this isn't just a simple magical disguise or some cheap illusion. In ancient Norse tradition, Hammermar is a profound shape-changing ability that fundamentally alters a being's essential nature, their instincts, and their physical form. Realizing the builder's entire operation completely relied on that great stallion Svadilfari, Loki used Hammermar to transform himself into a beautiful young mare. Yes, you heard that right. He galloped off into the woods, successfully seducing the supernatural stallion away from the construction site. Without his horse, the builder missed the deadline, got furious, revealed himself to actually be a giant in disguise, and was promptly crushed by Thor's hammer. Asgard was saved.
But Loki's whole equine seduction trick had a rather bizarre yet vital consequence. Nearly a year later, Loki finally returned to Asgard, bringing with him a little foal with 8 legs. This was Sleipnir, born to Loki himself while he was stuck in mare form. Sleipnir would eventually grow up to be the absolute fastest and greatest of all horses, becoming Odin's prized personal mount, a magnificent symbol of immense power, born directly from Loki's chaotic mischief. Chapter 4. Helper and Villain. Loki's dual nature. The ancient Norse loved to use kennings, which are these evocative, poetic phrases to describe their deities. For Loki, they used titles like Liesmith, Shape-Changer, Sly God. Notice how these titles perfectly reflect a being of boundaries. He doesn't just tell a lie, he forges lies like a master craftsman. He doesn't just wear a disguise, he physically changes his shape and his gender. He is a profoundly liminal being, someone who exists directly on the threshold between the ordered Aesir and the chaotic giants. He speaks the language of both, he understands the deep psychology of both, and yet he firmly belongs to neither. And this brilliantly illustrates the ultimate paradox of Loki. Just look at this ledger of his actions. On the left, you have his incredible helper deeds, rescuing the magical apples of youth, manipulating the dwarves into forging Thor's invincible hammer Mjolnir, and birthing Sleipnir. Honestly, without Loki, the gods would literally be aging, defenseless, and unmounted. But then look over on the right at the villainous deeds, maliciously shaving Thor's wife Sif Balt just for kicks, coldly orchestrating the tragic murder of the beloved god Balder using a mistletoe dart, and ultimately steering the horrific ship of the dead to completely destroy the gods at Ragnarok. He is, simultaneously, Asgard's absolute greatest asset and its deadliest world-ending threat. So, why is he like this? Well, Loki's incredibly unique psychology actually stems directly from his chaotic heritage. Even though he lived up in Asgard with the Aesir, his blood was entirely Jotun. His father was the giant Farbauti, whose name translates to cruel striker, representing destructive lightning, fire, and sudden untamed violence. His mother was a Laufey, or null, meaning needle, representing the flexibility of leaves and the cunning ability to slip seamlessly through the absolute smallest of openings. Loki basically inherited the whole shebang, his father's volatile, fiery destructiveness, and his mother's sharp, deeply adaptable cunning. Part 5. The Necessity of Chaos. Why Odin tolerated Loki. You might be wondering, why keep him around then? Well, the answer lies in the profound wisdom of Odin. Early on, Odin actually swore a sacred oath of blood brotherhood with Loki, eternally binding the supreme god of order to the ultimate god of chaos. Odin possessed the rare gift of foresight. He fully understood that a completely, perfectly ordered system eventually just becomes rigid and stagnates. Think of it like a forest. It actually relies on the destructive, terrifying force of a wildfire to clear out dead brush and crack open tough seeds to make way for new life. The cosmic order literally required Loki's chaotic interventions. Loki forced the gods to constantly adapt, to grow, and to acquire new weapons and wisdom. As chaotic as he was the essential catalyst for their survival. And so, as our campfire finally starts to die down, I want to leave you with this final, lingering thought to gaze into the embers with. In our own lives, and in the universe at large, can order truly exist, or hold any real meaning at all, without the destructive, transformative fire of chaos constantly challenging it? It's a huge question the ancient Norse grappled with millennia ago, and I think it makes their myths just as resonant and vital for us today. Thank you so much for joining me for this Campfire Explainer. Keep questioning, keep exploring, and I'll see you in the next one.